All right. Well, we've got some good attendees, so we'll go ahead in the interest of time and kick us off. Welcome everyone to the Mission Wired's webinar, What to Make of Year End, How Nonprofits Are Adjusting to Strategy for 2026. I think we all need to just take a deep breath. Yes, it's February 7th, but let's all celebrate the fact that we got through another year end. It feels like it's a surprise every year, and yet every year it happens, just like 8 o'clock when it's my kids' bedtime. It's a surprise every night. We've got some really great takeaways for you today, and I'm really, really excited to be joined by several of my amazing colleagues and peers here at Mission Wired. We'll kick off with introductions, and I'll introduce myself first. So my name is Trista Murphy. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm a senior vice president here at Mission Wired, and I lead our nonprofit practice. So working across our nonprofit clients and with our great practitioners to make sure that we're doing all the right things for our nonprofit partners. And I will pass it off to Amanda.
Hi, everyone. My name is Amanda Pena. I use she, her pronouns. I'm a vice president here at Mission Wired. I work on several of our nonprofit teams, and I also do some internal work on our learning and development. And I will pass it over to Frank.
Awesome. Thanks, Amanda. Hi, everyone. My name is Frank Carrazza. I use he, him pronouns, and I'm an associate vice president here at Mission Wired, mostly focusing on ads and acquisitions and work on several nonprofit accounts here. Great. I can pass it over to Rihanna.
Thanks, Frank. Hi, I'm Rihanna Mendez. I use she, her pronouns. I am a digital strategist here at Mission Wired, and I am on the digital accounts team, focusing on the nonprofit space, providing strategic advice to help grow revenue, increase donor base, retain donors, and cultivate audience lists, primarily for email. And I'll be going over some email trends for 2025 today.
Thanks, all. So, just to kind of root us in where we're going and this journey we'll go on together today, a quick agenda for you. We'll have some key industry and year end takeaways, and that's really to root us in the data that we're looking at, what the data set is, and what we saw. We'll then go over some channel performance and case studies, and then we'll leave you with some 2026 strategies, some things we learned, and how you can apply them to your fundraising program throughout this year. And then finally, we'll have an Ask Us Anything question and answer session. Don't feel shy if you've got a question throughout. Please drop them in the chat using the Q&A functionality, but we will get to those at the end. But I know that sometimes you don't want to lose sight of a moment or a question that strikes you. So don't be shy. We'll get to those as we go. Great. So 2025 at a glance, we saw some really incredible growth and increases year over year. For overall revenue, we had about a 14% increase, and then for overall gifts, we saw 11% increase. And this is kind of trending with how we saw previous years perform. You know, it's not those magic, amazing growth numbers we saw, 2020, 2021, 2022. But it was some good growth, and we did see some trending stabilization throughout the year. And so it was really incredible for us to see that. I will say that there were some differentials, right? It depended on what you were responding to throughout 2025. I think Amanda will talk about it in a few, but 2025 was not without its lack of newsworthy moments. And so it really depended on the size of your organization, the things that you were talking about, how you were approaching those moments. But overall, we were really, really pleased and proud to see the growth that we were able to achieve. The data set that we're looking at is a data set across a number of Mission Wired clients and other data that we've got access to. So overall, it's a really great sampling of benchmarking and kind of overall trends throughout the industry. And then by the numbers, looking specifically at November 1st through December 31st, we saw about $43 million raised across channels. Breaking that down farther, we had $18 million raised on email, $3 million raised over SMS, 9.4 raised over search. We had an average gift of $91, and we saw about 40 emails sent per program with an average of 16 SMS messages sent per program. And so that's, looking at that year-end timeframe, being very generous with our timing. We know Giving Tuesday tends to start before Thanksgiving in some cases, and then looking at our final stretch, which we really define as those days after the Christmas holiday through December 31st. We had about $16 million raised during that time frame, 7 million over email, a million over SMS, 4.4 over search. We had a $108 average gift, which is really incredible to see. We had about 13 emails sent per program and then 8 SMS messages sent per program. And so really you'll see that a bulk of that volume happens throughout the whole month, but we really focus on as fundraisers that last stretch because of that December 31st timeline and that text deadline that used to be so important and still, depending on where you fall, is important. And so we really see that trained user behavior, that trained donor behavior benefit us in those moments. Oh, I keep going backwards. I just want to keep talking about those high level numbers. And I'm going to pass it over to Amanda to get into it a little bit deeper.
Thanks so much, Trista. So we are all here for the trends, and the truth is that most of our nonprofits broadly were up year over year. However, there was a lot of variation in performance. That's why we wanted to show you just 3 snapshots of some of our clients, how they looked between Giving Tuesday and end of year, and whether they were up or down. And I really have to say that this year there's seems to be a lot more factors at play than any time in recent memory. I've been doing this for, I think, about 13 years now. We really saw whether an organization was directly affected by the Trump administration, like the USAID cuts, whether a nonprofit worked in an area of ongoing political attention, like food banks with SNAP cuts, or geographically in Ukraine or Gaza, as well as the economic trends we saw all year of less gifts throughout the year, but higher average gifts. So really, there were so many factors at play, and I really think you could create a flow chart of all these inputs that would get you to what we saw, which is clients that had strong rapid response opportunities throughout the year, who were kind of top of mind with their supporters because of the news, and who had the budget to go hard at year end, especially on search, tended to be up year over year. And clients that their missions were not on the front pages tended to be down, which is, never great to see. It's really crazy. I feel like I'm running out of words to describe the current environment. But it's just shocking how many of our clients were affected in so many different ways by the Trump administration. And I know a lot of great missions had some difficulty fundraising this year. So we're hoping to give you guys some great insights and help next year be even stronger. So over the next 2 slides, thanks to our analytics team, I get to answer some popular questions. So last year, when 12/28 and 12/29 fell on a Saturday and a Sunday, we saw that clients were very much down year over year on those 2 days, but ended in a strong position. Fundraising did rebound after that. So we feel that we took a look here at final stretch revenue. You can see kind of the coding, the color coding shows you the day, the date, and then you can also see the day of the week labels on there. And then the weekends are kind of in an outlined bar. And what you can see here is that weekends definitely affect end of year performance and where the weekend falls. And that revenue is highest on when the final days of the year fall on weekdays. So this upcoming year, the weekend falls on 12/26 and 12/27, and 12/28 through 12/31 are all weekdays. So that means 4 weekdays of solid end of year fundraising. It's a pretty ideal calendar for this coming year. So I feel like it's nice to put that question to bed because it was a big question that our clients had this year of, is where the weekend falls going to affect performance? The answer is yes. Another question I get to debunk. When is the correct time on Giving Tuesday to panic? This is the age-old question. And my recommendation is that 3 afters after your gut tells you to is a good rule of thumb. A large portion of Giving Tuesday and 12/31 fundraising comes in later in the day. Generally, that 3 p.m. to 11 p.m. Eastern hours are going to be your strongest hours for fundraising. Many even see strong fundraising till 2 or 3 a.m. the following day. In fact, you can see here about 30% of revenue comes in during the evening hours after 8 p.m. So our best recommendation is to be competitive in inboxes all day, especially towards the end of the day when people are sitting down, going through their inboxes, seeing the different offers they got from different nonprofits. You want to make sure that your message isn't buried on page 3 of the results because you only sent a couple messages earlier in the day. You want to make sure to be competitive in inboxes throughout the day. We even had some partners this year sending later sends to West Coast only, even into the night at 11 p.m., 1 a.m. So definitely don't forget about the impact of the West Coast. And I will hand it off to Rihanna to talk us more about email at end of year.
Thanks, Amanda. So, looking at email this year for 2025, we saw revenue increase while volume remained relatively flat. So, a few areas that assisted with this revenue growth. One, strategic segmentation. So, end of year is a great time to expand your audiences, maybe messaging some of those audiences that you don't usually message, or you message very little throughout the year. And really, aligning or intentionally speaking to those segments. So, for example, ask strings, if you have donors with a higher potential to give them a bit of a higher ask string than you would give your low dollar donors or even your prospects. Um, Optimizing emails ahead of end of year. So, really looking at tactics that worked best throughout the year and implementing them at end of year. We'll talk about this example on the side, which is really a great showing of this. Remaining nimble, so leaning into content that has been working and adjusting as needed. And a big part of that, leveraging resends and forwards. So using what we see is working in low lift ways. So as I mentioned, we have this example on the side of a lot of proven tactics kind of thrown into one email here. We've got supporter records, we've got equivalency buttons, we've got a countdown clock, we've got inset quote graphics, we have a match call out in the header. A lot of these tactics were actually tested into throughout the year. And this was kind of our one email where we put it all together. And this is what it looked like, which is quite a long email, but very visual, and was one of the top performers of the campaign. So just using those tactics that we're seeing work throughout the year in our final stretch messages when donors' attention is most focused on us. All right. And then, so just looking at year over year Giving Tuesday. So we have our preview, we have our day of, and we have our extension. Just want to note that this is a snapshot of a couple of organizations. So it's not across every organization, but it does give us an idea of a general trend. Day of revenue continues to be the strongest, but previews did rise above extensions in 2025. So continue day of messaging as kind of the primary revenue driver. Make sure to split up between preview and extension messages as performance can vary, as we see here. So you want to bring out your strongest tactics on Giving Tuesday day of. So anything like match upgrades. We know the appetite is there on Giving Tuesday, and we really want to bring out our strongest tactics then. One thing to note here is, as Tristad mentioned earlier, Giving Tuesday sometimes falls in November, sometimes falls in December. So leaning into extension messages when Giving Tuesday falls in November, since there's the perception of more time between Giving Tuesday and end of year than there is when Giving Tuesday falls in December. So just thinking about really diversifying across the preview, day of, and extension messages, since we see performance can vary year over year, and we're never sure which one is really going to fall into. So we want to make sure that we're covering all our bases there. And I will hand it over back to Amanda to go through SMS.
Okay, great. Now for another one of my favorite topics, SMS. So this year, SMS reached a lot wider adoption and hit saturation. Many of our clients were still up year over year, but we are starting to see diminishing returns here. It took more text to larger audiences to exceed the revenue totals that we saw in 2024. So this is an example of a tactic that helped one of our clients stand out in inboxes this year. It's a personalized graphic, it's eye-catching, and it really helps the supporter understand how their individual gift can help make an impact towards the overall goal. So we're seeing overall the need for more tactics, almost treating it with the complexity and nuance that we give to email at this point. And here's another example of just how it takes going a little bit above and beyond. Like last year, I would have just told my clients, really the past 3 or 4 years, just text more. That's definitely not the recommendation after coming out of this end of year. So this was some testing we put together for a client. And this is long code texting. If you haven't heard of this, it basically means you might have heard like peer-to-peer SMS or sponsored SMS. It's SMS not sent to your broadcast audience. It's sent to different audiences. So here we sent similar messages out to a existing donor file and an acquisition audience. And we found that Giving Tuesday was a better motivator for than end of year giving for the acquisition audiences, which kind of makes sense to us. These are people who aren't used to making an annual gift, and there's the surround sound effect of hearing about Giving Tuesday on the news and from friends and coworkers. Whereas that holiday messaging and that end of year institutional messaging was very effective for donors. So we think moving into next year, we're going to need to take a very segmented approach to SMS. We're going to need more than just versioning for different audiences. You really want to be conceptualizing them as different messages. So it's going to take a lot more nuance to continue to drive growth in SMS than before, when we could just say, keep sending or send more and you're going to see growth. We think it's going to take a little bit more to get to that growth moving forward. And on to
Awesome.
Frank.
Great. Thanks, Amanda. Awesome. Yeah. So when thinking about paid ads, being live across like all channels, paid social, paid search, paid display, all makes sense for end of year, but a big focus continues to be on paid search, definitely a priority channel, as it's always a reliable revenue driver. And we continue to see investment in the channel and revenue driven by paid search campaigns increase year over year. So specifically here at Mission Wired, we saw an 82% increase in search revenue year over year, and also a 62% increase in spend in that channel. So definitely focusing on your paid search campaigns is a priority. And as everyone looks ahead, some key things to keep in mind to make the best of your paid search campaigns in 2026 end of year. One is just your spend. So anticipate that you're going to spend a lot during this end of year moment. This is usually the biggest moment of your organization's paid media campaign. So you want to ensure that you have that budget available and you're able to kind of scale up quickly and make optimizations. And you could push the gas if you see really, really strong results during that time frame. Another thing to keep in mind is as you're all finalizing your end of year wrap-up decks, just taking kind of like a look at how you performed last year. And if you're seeing that you saw like a 400 or 500% or higher immediate return, ROAS, then while you did a really good job, but there's often indicating that there's a little bit room for you to scale even higher and really drive a bigger revenue. As you know, paid search can serve as both a retargeting tool and an acquisition tool as you're acquiring new donors, and you know that those new donors can provide long-term value. Just being strategic with the immediate ROAS benchmarks just allows you to kind of scale efficiently and increase your scale. Um, Another thing to keep in mind is our just the timing. Usually each year we kind of start our Giving Tuesday search ads a little bit earlier and earlier just to capture that initial donor intent. Same thing with end of year campaigns; those can last the entire month. So just ensuring that you're kind of giving the platform even more time to kind of get through the learning phase and gain optimizations so you're ready on Giving Tuesday, and even keeping it live a few days or a week after just to capture, all the donor intent around this big moment. And then also just keeping in mind some of the changes to Google's platform and just the new features that it offers. So something that a lot of clients have been testing into and running additional budget around is performance max campaigns. So Google now allows you to kind of run across their entire Google ecosystem. So a performance max campaign will essentially allow you to serve across all of their inventory: YouTube, Display, Discover, Gmail, even Google Maps, I believe, is a new feature that they're adding. And this essentially allows you to just upload headlines, copy, descriptions, and some images, and that it will use kind of Google's AI to kind of serve across what device or platform or placement where your potential supporter is. And also keeping in mind, Google Search is also implementing an AI Max, which also just kind of like builds on Google's algorithm changes. Um, and allows for you to basically, it will analyze your landing page and find relevant searches that you've missed. So it kind of serves as an additional keyword strategy alongside your traditional search campaign. But just keeping in mind that a lot of these new campaigns are doing more kind of like auto content creation. So just keeping that in mind if you are very particular about like the ad copy that is shown on the actual end responsive search ad. And then just taking a look at some creative, as that's a really important part of all of our paid ad campaigns. Um, we continue to see really great results on paid social Facebook with kind of this like native content feel. A lot of like note app screenshots, like hearts on screen or red flashing circles to indicate that it's like a live poll. A lot of these features kind of make the content feel a little less of a paid ad on your newsfeed and more of like an organic native ad, just increasing engagement, increasing just like user response. So we've seen like the example here of the City Meals on Wheels, just like this notes simple screenshot ad perform pretty strong with a match campaign at end of year here. And then lastly, also just keeping in mind, direct to camera content continues to be a top performer on Meta. If your organization has access to any celebrity or, top surrogate, usually drafting a script and filming that ahead of time and making sure you're able to launch it for end of year typically performs really strongly alongside kind of this all text screenshot ad copy as well. Um, awesome. I can pass it over to Amanda.
Thank you. Thanks, Frank. So now I'm excited to be able to show some of the numbers in action for what Frank was just talking us through when it comes to advertising. So this is one of my favorite graphs from end of year this year. This is looking at spend by day in that final stretch period and how it related to conversion rate. So what we did here is we really saw that conversion rate start to sharply increase after Christmas, after 12/25. You can see that it really kind of hit its peak on 12/28. And if you're looking actually on the right-hand side, you can see the axis or the labels for that. And we were at almost 30% conversion rate, which means, 3 out of 10 people who landed on an ad were actually giving, which is super, super strong. And it said to us that, okay, if we can hold this steady and we can crank up the volume on scale, then we're going to see amazing fundraising results. So that is exactly what we did. We were able to 3x spend between 12/28 to 12/29, 3x it again the next day, and 3x it again the final day. And I will say it's not easy to do this. The platforms are built to resist volatility, so it takes a lot of manual hands-on work to make this happen. So this was a labor of love for sure. And we came up with kind of a solution on the back end to help us make sure conversions were tracking fast enough to help us achieve this scale. But it just drove incredible results for Project Hope. At end of year, we were able to spend more than we've been able to spend, and raise more than we've been able to raise, in a massive way. So this, we really like to say the number one most important metric is spend. We know that the donors are going to give during this time period, so just making sure your ads are seen is most of the game. And it requires lots of thoughtful bidding strategies that you're adjusting 10 times a day and making sure are serving your mission. Every year, I am trying to find new ways to adapt, and we have kind of lots of little tricks that work. So if you have an ads program with your nonprofit, I would definitely ask your team to look at something like this, help you understand how spend was able to increase the final days of the year. And that should give you, if you saw conversion rates really high, you saw average gift really high, you should be trying to push your team to spend even more next year.
Okay, I can take us through some examples here. So this is from MD Anderson Cancer Center. So we have some creative here. So we have a Giving Tuesday postcard that is direct mail, and then we have some examples on how we kind of iterated off of that for digital. So we've been talking a lot about digital ads, email, and SMS, but we haven't really talked about direct mail. So you really want to use all of your channels. Don't lose sight of any of your channels during these tentpole fundraising moments. Keep strategy consistent and use similar or the same content across channels. Also, using some of these channels to drive online donations. So, we're bringing Giving Tuesday offline here with this direct mail Giving Tuesday postcard while still driving online donations. A few key things to point out here. So, for the direct mail piece, we had that match call out there, tripled, big, bold, red. Really see that your gift will be triple matched here. And then for the digital side, we have some more of our great tactics here, quote graphics, equivalency buttons, match increases, and just bringing our tactics that we know work into our content, but also humanizing it and personalizing it here by featuring someone across our Giving Tuesday messaging in both direct mail and in digital.
Yeah, and I think it was a really important part for us as we worked with MD Anderson this past year. November was a really critical time for them. They had launched their capital campaign. And so we thought that given Tuesday, and given their capital campaign, it was a really great opportunity to kind of push those boundaries. It was something that they hadn't tried before, is talking about Giving Tuesday and direct mail. And so we didn't want to lose sight of that. And we had a really integrated a through line across stories. You'll see Leah here was featured in the mail and then again in digital. And so it was really successful for them. We saw incredible growth for their Giving Tuesday and year end campaign year over year. And so it was an opportunity that we kind of took. And we'll talk more as we get into the next section about why channel diversification is so important. Frank, I'm passing it to you.
Awesome. Thanks, Trista. Um, so yeah, we wanted to just sum up our learnings into a few key strategies and see how you all can implement these and set them up for the new year. Um, so yeah, just taking a look. Key takeaway is broadening your channel reach. So where you've seen historically like strong success in a certain channel, continuing to branch out and expand within that one, diversifying your marketing mix. So knowing that some channels took off while others didn't last year. It's always smart to have your like eggs in all your baskets so you can reach all of those potential supporters, and always remaining nimble, knowing that these platforms and the CRMs and just everything happening in the world is changing. There's always going to be, new platforms and vendors to test. So should just being sure that you can do so ahead of time so you can incorporate that into kind of your end of year strategy. Um, and then also just making sure that you're continuing to focus on list growth, especially as you're gearing up for end of year, as you want to make sure that you have the largest pool possible when you get to that pivotal moment. Awesome. I can pass it to Amanda.
Thanks, Frank. So obviously we're here to talk about digital trends, but I would say one of the biggest trends with my digital clients is caring more about DAF giving. This is something that has really exploded in the last couple of years for our clients. They're seeing more and more DAF giving and huge year-over-year increases. So something that many of my clients did this year is just remind audiences that there are other ways to give. So we're seeing it on donation pages. We're seeing it in PSs of emails. Some clients even sent whole dedicated emails during the end of year period, talking about other ways to give, especially since staff giving is so advantageous for the organization. It's good to just kind of take an egoless approach to end of year fundraising and remembering that if somebody makes a gift via a method like DAF, where it has better advantages for the organization, that, it will lift all boats. So this is something that we saw more and more of our clients doing last year, and I expect to see clients mailing on this, every quarter this year.
All right. So one of the things we had talked about is remaining nimble here. So as Amanda has said, as Trista has said, as we all have kind of said, 2025 was crazy, tumultuous. Insert whatever word you want there. But rapid response moments were definitely up in 2025, and organizations that made use of these moments definitely benefited in terms of increased revenue. So, a few things moving forward. One is planning your calendar, knowing that you may need to be flexible. So, having an overall idea of how you want to move forward, but knowing that things may need to shift within that calendar. Monitor your results and shifts in the current environment and adapt as necessary. So that could be reframing messages. Where do we need to shift the focus of messages? Replacing messages altogether. Do we need to just completely scrap our plan that we had and replace it with different messaging overall? Sometimes removing messages or tightening segmentation. So, does the current climate right now call for a removal of a certain message or a certain campaign that we had? And do we need to tighten segmentation? Is this messaging working more with one audience than the other? I think these things can be together. They don't have to be separate. We can remove certain messages for audience, tighten segmentation for another. Just really reading the times and the current environment, as well as how your donors are reacting to your messaging. Of course, forwards and resends, make use of that top performing content with a low lift. You can suppress openers, you can suppress clickers or donors to the original message if you are afraid that donors will kind of see the same messaging. But attention is so fragmented at this time that it probably is unlikely that your donors will even notice that it is the same message. But we have that option to suppress those people so that a fresh set of eyes are on these resends or on these forwarded messages. And have a rapid response plan and some templates prepared so that they can be quickly picked up and adapted as needed. So in 2025, a lot of organizations that traditionally were not rapid response type messaging organizations suddenly found themselves in rapid response type messaging situations. So having those tools prepared ahead of time so that they can be adapted quickly when they're needed, when these headlines are out there, when the situation is really on the top of everyone's mind, is just a very prepared strategy for moving forward. And we have our rapid response toolkit QR code here from the Nonprofit Advisory Board by Mission Wired as just kind of some tools to get you started on that. And
Thanks,
Trista, I will toss
Rihanna.
it back to you.
Thank you. And I will just plug the Rapid Response Toolkit one more time. I have the great benefit of working with our nonprofit advisory board members, and I will tell you that a lot of love and went into this toolkit, and it has been really, really helpful for so many. And kind of what you do in those moments of you've got a year-end campaign happening, and suddenly news breaks, and your mission needs to respond. What do you do? And so it takes a really great look at some of those questions you should ask yourself, and you could ask your teams, and kind of how to work across your organization in those moments. So I think we're sharing this deck afterwards, but maybe grab a screen grab to get that QR code. But you can be sure that it's in a few places if you need it. Okay, so we reached it. We are at our last key takeaway of what we are taking into 2026 from 2025. And if you've ever heard me speak before, you know that I believe so strongly in list acquisition and list growth. And so we would be remiss if we said you should definitely be investing in list growth. It was really interesting when we looked over 2025 where we saw list acquisition peak and where we saw it kind of contract. And so I think definitely where we saw our clients and our partners in the space saw really incredible growth was those organizations who were taking the time, like Amanda Franken talked about, of investing in ads and other channels. We also saw organizations that invested in list growth and list opportunities recognize that success. And so we saw really tremendous return on investment in these places. And we're really proud of our data products that we offer here at Mission Wired under our digital co-op umbrella. And so we have a number of models that you can use. And we have a number of models that are really helpful for our partners from fixed low cost acquisition through our Advantage AI program to reactivation. I think Rihanna talked a lot about widening and closing your aperture when it comes to your segmentation. Never lose sight of those donors who came to you maybe during a peak moment. There is always an opportunity to reactivate them. And if through our reactivation tool, we can tell you who is most primed to come back. And so it's a really great opportunity. We talked a lot about SMS today. Our Mission SMS tool is really helpful for those organizations that are just breaking into the SMS space or are maybe seeing some stagnation in their current model. And so we can work with you to deploy some peer-to-peer messages to those folks to grow your program overall. And then mid-level co-op, Amanda talked about DAF giving. I can think of no greater audience than your mid-level group to go out to with a DAF ask. And our mid-level co-op lets you find new to file sources for mid-level. I think it's probably one of the only mid-level acquisition tools out there. And it's been really impactful and powerful for our partners who have used it. And then finally, offline integration. It's only getting more expensive to fundraise, whether that's increasing ad costs, increasing SMS and telemarketing costs. Direct mail, I think we narrowly escaped a postage increase in January, but those things are coming down the pike in 2026. And so, how can you get really efficient with your offline modeling? You can inform segmentation and increase net revenue. Who's more likely to respond online versus offline? We can answer some of those questions for you. And so I would think about list growth in a really holistic way. It's not just about adding more people to file, but getting more efficient and more targeted with that outreach overall. So we're going to take questions now. Let's talk. You've got our email addresses here on the screen, and they'll be shared after. And I know that our Q&A section is lighting up with lots of opportunities for questions. So we'll turn it over there. Frank, I'm going to pass the first one to you. We had someone ask in years past, and Amanda would love for you to jump in here too. We saw diminishing revenue results from direct to donate ads on Meta Facebook. So they've shifted their direct to donate ad budget away from that channel and into search. Are you still seeing strong revenue conversion for nonprofit clients on Meta direct to donate ads?
Yeah, thanks, Trista. Yeah, I think we have seen like clients here who have been shifting their budget to search from Facebook, but we still have a good number of clients here that do spend a lot on Facebook, even during the end of year time. I think it also boils down to kind of like your specific client. We've seen kind of clients that have like robust first party lists who are able to like just leverage Facebook's like audience targeting capabilities. So those like donor and prospect retargeting campaigns can prove successful during end of year if you're just ensuring that, yeah, the immediate return that you're seeing is strong. I also think it's always worth like testing each year, like preserving just a smaller amount of budget to see if it takes off, just because we see kind of changes year by year. And then also if you are trying to do like more acquisition focused, just like anticipating a lower, immediate return there, but knowing that you're acquiring new donors who will be, looped into the email program and then continue to be solicited for the months to come. But yeah, Amanda, if you had any additional thoughts.
Yeah, I just add there that with like owned audiences, like your donor and your prospect retargeting, the modeling can really help cut down on the actual names you're mailing to so that you can see a lot higher return. We've seen for clients that we've been able to cut down spend by half while still reaching the overall revenue goal. So that's something that can help with that. With acquisition audiences, it just can be a higher, more expensive time of year to acquire. Um, Due to, all the nonprofit competition, but also all of the e-commerce competition. So it's something where we definitely recommend testing lots of audiences. I tested about 10 at end of year for one of my clients, and we did find something that worked and we're able to scale a bit. But definitely, you are not alone in wanting to move budget away from D to D. It's definitely more hot and cold and can be a miss. It used to be very solid a few years ago, but definitely we see more and more clients moving budget to search. However, we still have a bunch that do really, really strong ads with modeling, with earlier, like Frank was talking about, direct to donate videos that have the direct to camera can be a huge game changer in terms of ads.
Thank you. And Amanda, we're going to keep it going. Someone asked the question, what should a nonprofit that launched SMS for the first time at end of year and saw strong results be thinking about going into the new year? And how do we keep the momentum strong now that supporters are used to hearing from them via text?
Yeah, that is a really great question. And I have worked with a program that really scales their SMS over the last couple years. And last year we had a full-fledged program. And something that we found is it really affected the list in unforeseen ways. So we actually had sustainers, for instance, they were most likely to make additional one-time gifts over text rather than email, where they got more email. Obviously, they can get web. They were folded into some of our ads audiences, but they really like to give over text. So I think it's just a reminder that text is the most urgent feeling channel. They also expect a message to be urgent if you're texting them. So making sure you're reaching them with urgent, timely messages, I don't want to say you can't overdo it on urgent messages. You certainly can. However, I would definitely recommend that every message you send has a really clear point, and kind of sometimes the more institutional brand focused messages won't do well on SMS. So making sure you're having urgent opportunities to give. If you don't have a rapid response, then you're thinking about other ways you can create that urgency, whether it's a quiz that you're going to have open, a poll that you have open, sign the card, even a match can help create that sense of urgency. So definitely recommend keeping it up. I think continuing to text year long, I would say a once a week text is a great place to be for a program that's newer to texting, and you'll definitely see that audiences do expect it, and there are certain people who like giving over text. That's another reason I think Mission SMS can be so great is because we're actually modeling for people who give gifts over text, not just give overall. So yeah, keep it up.
Thanks, Amanda. Brianna, only because I know we worked on a couple of clients this year, we had the question asked for orgs that faced budget cuts in 2025. What's your recommendation for making the case for investment if the same resources aren't available?
Yeah, I was thinking about this one as well. I think a big part of it could be depending on your audience size and your donor size, messaging the same audience fatigue can start to set in when they feel like they're receiving the same kind of message and messaging points over and over again. So you really want to get some new eyes onto your messages. Get that point out to people that have not heard it for however amount of time. It could be a year. We're in February. This is 1 year since the initial funding pause and then eventual cancellation. So really getting more people, your messaging out to more people so that your base doesn't start to get fatigued. You definitely don't want donors possibly unsubscribing because they feel like they're hearing the same messages over and over again. So while it may seem like another investment when we're already limiting some resources, It's definitely one that can help you grow over time. So you don't want to just neglect it at the moment and then not be able to have that list growth and acquisition over time.
Yeah. And what we saw in 2025 too with folks that invested in that list acquisition, while their investment budget might have been shortened or, they were refunneling fundraising resources to programmatic resources, we did see that our return on spend for list acquisition, we did see a good break even. So between 6 and 12 months, it was really standard. It's really standard from across the board what we see. And so if you can talk to your senior leadership about maybe just opening up that window, right? To say, like, if I can invest $10,000 in list acquisition, we can recoup that investment and then some within a shortened amount of time. I think really helps make that case of you're getting donor fatigue, your list is shrinking, and so making sure that, to Rihanna's point, you're getting more eyes on that message is really, really important. Amanda, we have another SMS question. SMS is a popular one today. Do you have any best practices for managing email and SMS audience overlap?
Yes, that's a very good question. And I would say, I think first off, something I like to always um, remind people is that repetition is good. We want sometimes receiving the same message across channels isn't something to be avoided. It's something to be sought out. It can help actually increase response over all channels. So I would say, first of all, don't worry about it too much. I would say also, I have not seen any studies on this and I have not looked at the data, but I would guess my gut reaction, my gut thought is that we're talking about different people here. Most people are not up to date on their texting and their inbox at the same time. So probably they are not seeing this message in two places and annoyed that you just sent them the same thing twice. That's just not the way most people work. I know when I'm on my phone, it's because I'm using my computer for work and maybe I'm checking my phone occasionally. Most people kind of operate in that way. If anyone is inbox zero in email and SMS, you're my new hero because I can never achieve that. So I would say, first of all, don't fear repetition. It can actually help increase response. But second of all, you do want to make sure that if there is an offer that you give out on one channel, they're able um, to honor that on a different channel. For many donors, it's very important for them that they're able to get a match. One of my clients was actually manning the phones at his nonprofit on 12:31 in the afternoon, and so many donors called in saying, I gave via mail, but I really want to make sure that my donation was able to be matched. So, making sure that your offers are the same across channels, I think that's the only thing that truly is extremely important to make sure is aligned. Otherwise, repetition is okay. Differentiation is okay. I am running a program right now, and we have tried pretty much the same topics on email and SMS, and we are seeing different results there. Where one country, Gaza, is working better than Ukraine, and vice versa at different points on different channels. So I would say from a planning perspective, I think it's okay to start off with the same message on multiple channels. And then as you find out what works on each channel, you can differentiate. But there's no reason inherently to avoid using the same content.
Amazing. Well, we are at time. Thank you all for the amazing questions. Thank you to my colleagues, Frank, Rihanna, and Amanda, for joining me today. It was great to get to share all of this with you. You'll get this deck and this recording in your inbox, and you have our emails. So we always love to chat. We'll happily take you up on a chat if you are so inclined to do so. Thanks again, everyone. Have a great day.